Hey guys, welcome back to a new episode of Training Brains. I'm your host, Angelo Messina, and my co-host, Evan Greif.
Hey everybody.
Um, so a couple of weeks back, we had talked about like high school education, about high school in other countries like Italy, USA, and Japan, and we want to revisit that. But instead of being high school, universities, and not just like your bachelor's, your undergrad, your community college, but also as well as masters and doctorates and the importance of them. If you do want to seek, there's people who do say like forget college, trade school is the way to go. Yes, 100%. Or like if you're Gary V, um, Gary Vanderchuck, if people don't know him, screw that to everything and just invest on yourself, which it just could be take a couple classes or two and learn to invest or teach yourself how to trade or how to build a business.
Yeah,
That
well for
also
him, yeah,
really
it's probably mostly like sales and marketing stuff. So that's stuff you take a class from somebody
exactly or a
who
mentorship.
yeah.
Um, but like right now, we're going to talk about education because not just it's good for you or whatever. It's more in the fact of some degrees that you want to get into, you do have to go to college for. And people like your parents do say like, oh, you at least have to get a college degree if you need to succeed in life. Don't need to, but going back, colleges like from like undergrads, like I went for biology. Evan, you went for finance, right?
Yeah, finance and IT. And I mean I'll get into that a little bit later as to like whether or not that was actually useful or a good idea for
Hmm.
me. But yeah,
But like a
go
lot
on.
of people, when they go into college, they have like this like in during high school, they had to have a know what they need to like. They need to know what they need to do in life,
Mm,
and like, oh, I need to pick this major and this and go to this school. No,
right.
you go to any school that you want to go to for whatever major you want to do. Just basically make it valuable for yourself
Yeah.
and yourself in the future. If I know people who have went to a decent school, went to art history, and then they took the MCATs and they're doctors,
Hmm.
and they just went art history. You don't have to go to pre med to go to be a doctor, but also does help to take pre med classes and then take the test because the
Can you
pre
explain
med.
something to me? Is pre-med just courses that are geared towards getting a medical degree, but you take them during a bachelor's degree?
Yeah, so basically, like I feel like not I feel like, but like pre medical, the pre med degree is more like you have your science, your chemistry, and your like all science bases, kind of
Okay.
geared into people who want to go into the medical field more for doctors.
Hmm.
These are basically people who want to be a doctor,
Okay.
and they just kind of like it's 4 years of basically a prep themselves in for the MCATs because you have to take the MCATs in order to go to medical school. And you have to score really high because there's so many people who are trying to get into it. But it's not just school. You have to do other stuff like not sponsorships, externships, internships, volunteer, study, and like all that stuff. You can't just focus on your studies. So like for myself, like I went for my biology major and chemistry and a chemistry minor because I thought that's going to be useful for what I want to do with pharmaceuticals or healthcare. And it's kind of broad. Like biology is very broad. So like what I feel like a lot of people is like, oh, bachelor's is fine. Yes, but also the pay will be very low because like the biology is not like it's not known for the money unless you work for a really big pharmaceutical company,
Right,
and
right.
not a lot of people do.
Oh,
You know what I mean? So some
yeah, it's
people do
limited.
like myself went to masters and I specialized in immunology, which is the study of your defense system. And then after that, I got a job, and yeah, I spent 6 years of school to get a 9 to 5 job. But was it worth it? Yes, because I have a job that I'm in the field that I currently do enjoy.
Hmm.
But then it opens new doors as you're working. You want to go into different fields. You want to specialize more in healthcare or want to get more research. So it opens up new places that education is always there to invest in yourself and is a way to invest in yourself to better yourself for the future or make an extra step to your career.
For sure. Yeah, I mean, I think it's, there's a very difference between vocation and avocation, right? So vocation being career and thinking about what you want to do to make a living, something that you want people to pay you for, whether it's a good or a service that you provide. The number one piece of advice I would have for young people today who are, considering going for university or even their masters or even doctorates, right, is just know whether or not you need those things to get to the point where you want to be, right? So like somebody who maybe wants to start a business, and all they need are like sales and marketing skills because they have a great idea, right? Then maybe you don't need to go to university for full 4 years to start up that business that you want to start. Granted, I think in a lot of situations, and I think parents mostly encourage their kids to get bachelor's degrees at the very least. It's just so that they're basically employable, right? And then once you get into a job, you can learn about the business, you can understand the workings of it, what you need to do to have a successful business, and then either take your skills and go to another organization with it, right, and as a professional and make more money, or branch out and eventually start your own business. But I think that's pretty much it. Where like you're investing in yourself because you need a certain amount of certification of like, okay, here's the base level of how much and how capable you are of completing difficult tasks, and then from there, like even before you go to university, you should be encouraged to seek out people who are doing what you think is cool or what you think you want to be doing. Because then you can ask them directly how they got to the point where they are, instead of thinking like, well, I want to do this job, so I'm going to go to college for a degree that I think is related to that and I think I can use with that. But more importantly than that is to find somebody who's also already doing what it is that piques your interest, and then asking them directly like, what do you think would be helpful? Because they're already in the field, they're already working as whatever position that you want to be in, or they're doing what you want to be doing. So the best thing is to get advice from the source, I think.
Yeah, like actually not too long ago, a random person, I'm not going to tell about his name and who he is, but he messaged me on LinkedIn. Yeah. At least he's a guy, but it's no one's going to know.
Yeah.
But like he messaged me and say, hey, you work for this healthcare system. Like, how do I get into that healthcare? And I was like, okay, like it's very broad. Like I'm happy to help you. You know what I mean? Like,
yeah,
if you want to work at the same place where I'm at, tell me about yourself. Like, why do you want to go in here? Like, I can't hire you on the spot, but at least I know and I could gauge, and by giving you the best advice that I can think of to help you out. So
I mean, there are.
So he said, like, oh, I have this many years. I have less than 1 year full experience in research, but I want to get out because I want to seek new experience. I was like, okay, it was like, okay, instead of just applying, like, yeah, you could just apply to every research assistant position out there. You know what I mean? You could just apply until one bites, right? Or, and especially if you want to do like more basic research, and which is basic is more like you do more of the thinking than clinical is like you just do one test and it's kind of mindless.
Okay.
So I was like, okay,
that's basic research.
Basic research is more like I have a thesis and I'm gonna test that, and I need funding from like the state or a sponsor or whatever the case may be. While clinical, you work at a laboratory and you're doing, let's just say, one set of tests for this patient, like oncology, and you test their white blood cells. Right. And you do that same test for tens and thousands of people in the week or whatever.
And then once you're done with that, test something else.
Yeah, but you just test that and you just keep on doing Jane Does until whatever, until you find a new spot. But But going back, so I was like, okay, what are you interested? So he gave me like three that he was really interested, like pancreatic cancer, genetics, and neuroscience. I was like, okay. So as I look at go to the healthcare, like go through the healthcare that I'm at, look at the laboratories, and look at every and not private investigator, the principal scientist that's on it, or the principal investigator at that
Mhm.
lab, and just
Right.
message and just send them an email saying, "Hey, my name is Jane Doe, and I am this many years old. I have a master's or I have a bachelor's at this place. I have this many years experience," and just basically do a brief intro about yourself,
Hmm.
and then express interest that you want to be working in their lab, and see if they have any openings.
Yeah.
And then that's it. So at least your foot in the door, and you're showing them that you are interested in working in their lab because you think that their lab is interested and sparks your interest.
Yeah, that's also something no. I was listening to a podcast about coding, like tips for getting a programming job or like a web developer job,
Mm-hmm.
and they interviewed somebody for this podcast where he said, get your profile in front of the people who matter, and by that is like the people who make the hiring decisions. So, like you said, getting the principal investigator's attention is
Mm-hmm.
probably the number one, quickest way, because a lot of times when you apply online, it's anonymous, and a machine, an AI machine or whatever, is going to read over your resume, and if it's not made perfectly, then it's just going to skip over it.
Mm-hmm.
So yeah, getting your getting yourself in front of the people who make the decision is of utmost importance. And
Yeah.
like you said, expressing your interest and like describing who you are and what you could bring to the organization.
Mm-hmm. So like so before we go
Yeah, we're going
off
a little off track.
course, but trying to go back, like some, like at least knowing who you know, making connection and helping them out. Like I gave that guy advice. Is he going to take my advice? I won't know. But if he finds a job in the near future at the same place that I'm working at least I know I put him on the right path. He just needs to execute it now.
Yeah,
Um,
yeah,
and just basically ask. You always have to ask questions. If not, you're always going to be in the same boat. You're not going to, like, how I always like think about it, like in throughout my college, my masters, and going for my doctorates right now. The one thing I do listen and I do ask about myself, do it, like legit. Like I have like a little child above just said like just do it, like kind of like that.
hmm
In the sense of like if I don't, I'm gonna be back where I was. I'm gonna
yeah.
be back if not if me contemplated on doing it. So I just did it. But now, just sorry for that rant, but want to go
No, all
back
good.
on that. For like college
Well, we
experience,
were.
like the college, like I went to SUNY Oswego,
Hmm.
great school up north, the great, like, close to the Great White North, um, and it was the experience, like the party and all that stuff, but like more in the education. Like I picked there because it was kind of like the farthest way possible that I wanted to go to, and it was still in New York, so I was able to save some money. And also, they had a really good biology program. For me, it was like in the top 25 when I applied,
Hmm.
to my knowledge. And so I applied and I got in, and it was great. Like I had some professors that were like the smartest people that I know, or legitimate. They are so smart, but their accent is too thick from another, like a foreign country. Like I had this
Right.
organic chem professor, great guy, fun, hilarious guy. He had this thick Turkish accent that I could not understand him at all,
Hmm.
and it made that class so much harder. That legitimate, like if when you say people like, oh, I got a B minus, like wow, like that was good, because like
For
people like,
organic chemistry, though, I hear that that's actually good.
yeah, to get it like, in the B's, like anywhere in the B's, like you're doing great, like just because it's just like you have to know all these certain compounds and what they mix, and where they're going to mix, and depends on
Right.
what professor you have. You don't know. Like that's why like a lot of people, like in the beginning, like I remember when I was signing up for classes, I was just like, break my professor. Who do I need? Who do I want? And sometimes the best professors will have the shittiest time. And like, I don't want like, oh, this professor's really good, but like, do I want to go at 8 o'clock in the morning every Monday, Wednesday, Friday?
Yeah.
Or do I want to go? This guy, he's decent, but he's at 12 o'clock. So that you kind of like weigh your thing. I did one of my semesters with an 8 o'clock class, and I absolutely hate it because it was just like I always wanted to fall asleep because the guy had a monotonic voice. Because like some professors, they have different teaching styles,
Yeah, I had a statistics professor who was just
and
like
it
that.
was actually statistics as well. It was for
Okay.
biostat. It was biostats, and this guy, ugh, my first college grade, first failing college course that I had to retake that class, and I retook it, and I got an A in that class, and it was a guy was so much better, and like I blame myself for failing. Don't get me wrong, but also
Right.
like
But at least you have a more engaging
yeah,
professor at that
I
point.
had a
So
professor
yeah,
to help me a lot more.
that makes sense too. Using rate my professor and stuff like that. With my experience, I wasn't thinking when I went to university. I was just like, whatever classes I have to take to get this degree, let me just study hard on my own, not
Hmm.
think about my professor or whatever. Like I don't know. I wasn't thinking very much about my degree. A lot mostly because I wasn't inspired by my degree. Um,
Hmm.
like I'm interested in finance. I think it has it has its mm, like attraction that I have towards it.
Yeah.
But like the I it's like IT management was the other concentration I did. So like my degree is business administration, and you could take up to 5 concentrations. So normally people would take only 2. I knew some guys who like one guy who took all 5, which was crazy. But most of the time you only take 2. Um, and people would take accounting and finance or accounting and HR or like accounting was the mainstay, and then whatever else, accounting and IT,
Hmm.
um, or marketing. So those were the 5, I think: accounting, finance, marketing, IT, and yeah, HR. So those are the 5 concentrations. I took finance and IT because I thought working in the finance industry would actually be pretty cool, and I was always interested in technology, so I decided to study that. But it turned out to be a little bit different from what I had previously imagined, and I ended up more interested in like the economics courses and on like the finance theory than I did the IT part.
Okay.
Now I'm doing a lot more IT work and like on the ground, like in the field programming work, and it's growing on me definitely. But I think the financial part is more my interest.
Appealing. Mm.
Yeah, it's more appealing to me, and I'm hoping to like because I didn't do something related to my degree immediately after university per se, because
Yeah.
I started out as like a programmer, pretty much like a system engineer, and that wasn't connected to even the IT I was studying in university. But I'm kind of moving back towards it. I've been trying to go move back towards finance.
Okay.
One of the issues is like if I get a job in the finance sector here in Japan, finance here functions quite differently from finance in the U.S. In terms of like regulations and um, so I just not sure if I want to make that leap right now or make that leap when I go back. It's still something I'm considering. Um, but for all of our listeners, I think having a clear idea of what you want, like where you want to be after college,
Hmm.
is going to serve you very well in selecting what you do while you're in college, right? Who you interact with in terms of like professors, what courses you want to be taking, all that stuff. So, like you said, definitely be asking questions
Hmm.
constantly.
Like for, I know like when people take like computer science, like it's always good to have like do good in your grades, like do good in your classes, but also have a really good uh, internship because like
Yeah.
where you're gonna be interning, you basically will have a job, and that's any degree that you go into, of course, yes, but like biology is not like you don't need to intern anywhere. Just find a professor that you can work under and do research with that professor
Right.
for X amount of years, because then now you have lab experience. Yes, is in academia side of it, and some like employees won't see that as valuable, but at least they're like, okay, at least he knows the basics, so you don't have to teach that person from the ground up. At least then you just have to hone in their skills. Uh, and then like for me in the STEM field, like if anything, it's get good grades, find a professor that you could do your internship or you work in their lab, and then after that, do really well and use them as a recommendation. And then basically ask them for advice on where to go. Because in the STEM for biology, it's either that you work as a bachelor's or your master's and try to work for either a healthcare or a pharmaceutical lab company or like a reference lab, which basically do like the generic testings
Mm-hmm.
for like biomarkers in the heart or whatever. Depends on whatever lab it is.
Right.
Or you go for your PhD and you go for your bachelor's plus another 6 more years. So you do 10 years of school,
Yeah.
and then after that you are a doctor in the sense of not like a medical doctor, but you're a research
Right.
doctor that
Well,
you
you're a researcher.
you experiment on whatever field that you are in. But then also you could make, even if people like, let's just say the dollar sign, you could go make 6 figures in a pharmaceutical company and being the head researcher on developing new drugs for Alzheimer's or cancer related stuff or even diabetes or whatever it
Mm-hmm.
is that interests you, whatever the money is. And if you're a money um, power, if you're power for hunger, like if your goal is only to chase for the dollar sign. Um, and some people are like that. Some people are just in there for the glory, or they're there because they really love the work that they do. Um,
Yeah. Well,
so
so in the program that you were in, did like a lot of people kind of go for similar jobs in like similar sectors? Because I know when I graduated at Albany and in the business administration, like the business school was kind of like a separate thing from the general Albany school.
okay,
And a lot of the graduates would go on to work as new hires at places like EY, PwC, Deloitte, um, the big four consulting and accounting firms,
hmm,
um, and that was like most of the graduates would do that.
okay,
Now, and granted, I didn't do that. I did something completely different. Um, but
you don't say.
yeah, yeah, no, I did. Well, to be completely frank, I didn't think I would be motivated or even competent enough to perform at those organizations.
Hmm.
Yeah. I mean, well, competence probably now I don't feel that way, uh,
But
but
especially in the
what
new
was
hire,
motivation?
it's more fresh. But
Yeah,
motivation, that's something that's within that you have to think about. Um,
yeah, it's intrinsic. I mean, there is extrinsic,
mhm.
the dollar sign, like you said, but I I really think that people should try to find what intrinsically motivates them
Yes, of course, 100%.
and just cultivate it.
Hmm. What was the other question that you had before?
Question?
About, I think it was about certain the degrees that you want to go into, or not. Then not you into, but more like if like for biology, like do they need just a bachelor's or is that something else? Or I'm just thinking ahead.
Um, yeah, no, like to go to medical school, like you already just explained this, where you need uh, coursework in
Hmm.
the sciences, in
Yeah,
chemistry, biology, and all of
the
those classes.
requirements.
The
Yeah.
requirements. Okay. Yeah. So
So
that makes
like,
sense.
in order to take the MCAT, you have to take a certain amount of classes, and like I never took the MCAT before, so but from my knowledge from other people who took the MCATs, it's like a couple bio classes, a couple physics, a couple chemistry, and then
Hmm.
a biochemistry. So you kind of like hit everything, and then some course of math, like mathematics.
Okay.
And after that, then you'd be able to take the test. But it doesn't matter what degree that you are in. You could be an English major. You could be an art history major.
Right. As long as you take the required amount
Tests,
of class.
and then you have other external factors like volunteer stuff, internship. You worked a couple of years, whatever the case may make you more interested in your profile. You're just not a hermit crab and you just study.
Right.
So
which
like,
is I don't have anything against hermit crabs, but like, you know,
no, but like it depends on
companies
like how
want to see people who are
you have a life.
extremely active, right?
Yes.
Look, I'm on the hermit side because I am a hermit as well, and I think that they get a bad rep. So
Well, it depends on how you look at like hermit crabs are not bad when they already working at the place. It's trying to get yourself to look outside inside the shell.
yeah, yeah.
And that's the problem. You have to show that you are more creative than what you are, than just being a hermit crab. But like people for me, like I'm a bio guy. So like anyone who's in the bio, you could find a job as a bachelor. But if you want to work your way up, like I like to work like I love what I'm doing, but also like my goal, like I want to be ahead of something. Like when I say like something, I know that's broad and very generic, but like more for like a laboratory sense. Like I love doing research and being like the grunt, but also I don't like being the grunt for so many times. Like I want to be the head honcho in the sense of telling people, not just telling, but like actually inspire them to like what we are
Well,
doing.
giving direction. Yeah.
Yes, giving them direction and guidance to prove themselves because what they are doing is important work for us to the whole world and the community.
Into the organization and
Exactly.
yeah, for sure. And of course, you don't want to be doing grunt work for more than like I don't know 2, 3, 4 years,
Yeah.
because eventually you get so good at it that you want to start exploring new things. You want to start improving other skills. So.
So like that's why like but like I feel like different education value is different. Like if you want to get your bachelor's, yeah, you're gonna do some front work more. You could get good in certain stuff and work your way up because some companies value education, some company doesn't. So it depends on what kind of company that you want to go into if they're gonna value your education. I know some company that they'll be like, "Oh, you want this? Okay, you got to go back to school and get XYZ done." But like that's why I went for my master's, as well as now I'm going for my doctoral, my doctorate program in healthcare administrative because I do want to get into the healthcare field and be like a director in in the laboratory or research facility. I already have. I'm doing the experience right now. Now, hopefully, soon and within the year or two, get promoted to supervisor, then manager, graduate from my doctorate, and then use that for be a director or whatever. So hopefully, in the near future, that everything will fall into place.
Absolutely, man. Like I think bottom line to everybody is just keep trying, right? And if you try something and it doesn't work, right? Just figure out the reason. Figure out why it doesn't work, and then try something else or try it in a different way.
Yeah. And like for people, so like
because right now I'm applying to this engineering role at a very very good IT company, and I'm not going to name it because I'm still applying and I don't have the job yet. But if I get it, not only will I be extremely happy and glad that they're taking me on, but I don't have a CS degree. Like I've never taken any coursework in computer science. So, but I've spent the past 3.5-ish years working kind of in and around IT and in and around programming and coding. So, I've had time to experience it and understand how it works. And if I get this next position that I'm applying for, then I think I won't ever really need to go back to school to get a CS degree because I'll already have the business experience, the work experience for it.
Yeah, but like also like the CS and also like a lot of people are doing certificate programs now that you just need that
Yeah.
you just need to know the basic stuff or a little bit more advanced stuff.
Yeah, one of our
And
friends, he went to a boot camp and now he's a web developer.
yeah,
So
and that's it. Um, and he went for his bachelor's in something else. I don't know.
yeah, yeah, I think it was finance.
Yeah, and then he went to his boot camp, and now he's in a different field. So it doesn't really like education is there. Like I think education get your bachelor's and whatever you want,
Mhm.
but it will always change. Just get it in business or get it in biology, get it whatever you want. Um, like it doesn't matter. It's like if you in a CS and you want to go into computer science, you want to be a cybersecurity or hacker or whatever the
Program,
case may be.
software
Yeah,
engineer.
programmer, engineer, and go into CS or engineering into those STEM fields. If you want to be like a doctor, go pre med. Like at least now you know
Yeah.
the basic, like the roots of the foundation
Yeah.
of what you want to
For
be.
for me now, I'm actually going back to mathematics and statistics. And like I don't pick it up quickly, but I find it
Hmm.
interesting. So that's kind of what keeps me going in terms of like learning the
Hmm.
concepts and trying to understand it. Um, I think I always struggled with math
Hmm.
in high school, but when I understand it, I enjoy it.
Yeah.
So it's all a matter of just repetition,
Hmm.
understanding it, and then being able to use it for whatever next problem there is to solve.
Yeah. Um, and then like right now I'm going for my doctorate, and like what really helped me, I'm not saying like I don't think like my doctorate class is like really hard. It's time consuming, yes, and like you have to put the effort and the hard work into it and spend like countless of hours of like writing papers, doing research and writing more papers,
How
but
many
it's not
papers do you have to write during the degree?
one
Because I thought
once a week.
once a week. Okay.
Well, it depends on what classes, but like I had to write once a week per class, like per week. There are 8 weeks, so 8 papers.
Hmm.
Depending on the professor, it could be 6 papers or 3 papers or 1 paper. But generally speaking, it's about 4 to 8 papers in a class. But then also you have your dissertation, which you defend your thesis on.
Right.
And I like for this, I want to know. Not I want to know. I want to tell people about like I'm going for my doctorates, and I do truly love. Like I love what I'm doing because not just only like I want to enjoy, it, but like also like how the level of thinking that I am actually like doing on an everyday basis now. Like I am using where I'm at my job, constantly using like my critical thinking skills to improve the organization, myself, my department, and for the community, and just constantly thinking that like my brain's not going to be turning off. It's just constantly thinking because with the skills I have in my doctors, and I'm halfway through of it right now, and I'm just constantly using the skills that I have learned in that program into my department and trying to help that grow. And I
Hmm.
feel accomplished because it's like what I'm learning, I'm practicing.
Yeah,
And
you're actually able to apply it in
yes,
uh, a
um,
working context. So.
so like I like from like the three like bachelors, masters, and doctors, I feel like your bachelor's is very broad of what you want to do.
Hmm.
Kind of like express your interests.
Yeah, it's
Masters,
definitely very broad.
you're honing into you're being more a little bit more specialized, and then your doctorates now you're already specialized what you want to do. Now you are trying to become a master at it, or kind of like practice of like you are practicing the art of this, or
Well, becoming an expert, right? Because when
yeah.
you write a dissertation, it's
Hmm.
research based on a very specific study or a very specific
Yeah.
topic, right? So.
So like so like my so like a lot of people what they're writing about, it's all depends on what they want to write about. I'm not going to be talking about my dissertation because since I only have been doing the beginning, but also like I don't want anyone to steal the topic because it's some topic that I do want to
Hmm.
pursue in later on,
Yeah,
and
absolutely, man. Don't
I
feel
don't want
pressure
anyone
to.
no, and I don't want anyone to steal it either.
Yeah.
Um, but like so like with all the universities and like So like the main question is basically like why you have to go. Then the real answer is like you don't have to go. Trade school. A lot of people are electricians, and we need people who are in hard manual labor jobs. You don't need to go for a degree for that. Go to trade school, learn the skills, and then find a construction job.
Hmm.
If you want to be a coach, you don't need to go to college to be a coach. You go to get the license that whatever you need and start coaching and get the experience that way. If you want to be, let's just say you want to be a professor, okay, that's you need the
Yeah.
education. You need to have a PhD in whatever subject that you want to teach.
Hmm.
So you're going
Yeah.
for 10 years of school. So then a lot of people's like, oh, I'm going to have so much loans and whatever. So if you work, it depends on what program and what program you do work, and then depends on what kind of company you do work for. There's some loan forgiveness programs that a lot of people would do. Like if you're a teacher and you teach in a high need school, they can help you out after X amount of years.
Hmm.
Um, you work for the army or military forces or nonprofit organization like myself. Like I'm working at a nonprofit organization, and after that I'll be done with 10 years with school, and I need help with that, of course. But after 10 years of service, the majority of my loans will get lobbed off because I'm providing service to the public
Right.
for
Yeah.
working
And
at a
that's
nonprofit
something. Yeah,
organization.
that's something listeners should be wary of too. It's like, ways that you can mitigate the costs of going to
Mhm.
college, getting the degrees you need.
Besides like your typical scholarships or good grades or academics, scholarships from the school or external scholarships. But like let's just say you do take the fullest and you do want to work in a nonprofit, that can help you out. Or you become a teacher in a high need school, that can also help you out. So
Yeah.
the options is limitless. It's more. I feel like it's such a like the university. It's just like you just have to be careful on what classes you take, why you're taking it, and as well as like be true. Like just think about like this is what you really want to do, and like if it's not, don't worry. There's so many possibilities you could do with it.
Yeah. Even if
Just
you
have
get
a
a
plan.
bachelor's degree and you have like a bit of, loans, let's say it's like 10,000 or twenty
Hmm.
thousand dollars, you're not fucked. Like,
Yeah,
you have so many options to grow in your future, and
exactly.
especially with being so young. You know, I mean, we're still 26. We have plenty of
Hmm.
time to, you know, you know, decide and do what it is that we want to do. And right now, this project itself, Trading Brains, right? Our podcast is just something
Hmm.
that we decided we wanted to do together.
Exactly. Just getting better, talking, podcasting, kind of being like on the mic as well. And like, you don't need a degree for that. You could start that legitimate tomorrow.
Yeah.
Or let's just say if any viewers are in college right now and you're listening, you're in your dorm, like you could legit like after this episode, you could make your first very own episode of whatever topic you want and pick a niche and whatever. That you
Hmm.
don't need an education. We're just talking about the importance of education, but like it's there. Why
In
not?
specific fields, yeah.
Yes,
So
it, but it's also like it is there. So if you want to have a college education, go with it. Like the experience is awesome. Don't get me wrong. The parties, um, different genders mingling, if boy girl, whatever the case may be, because it's 2019. So all that stuff, as well as like meeting new people,
yeah, I
connection,
mean, you encounter people
alumni.
who are different from the people you
Yes.
spent your whole young life with, right?
Hmm.
And now everybody's a stranger.
Yeah.
Uh, so
You become this big fish into a big fish in a small pond to a average sized fish in the ocean.
yeah,
So, um, be humble, understand what degrees are out there, pick them wisely. If not, seek guidance. There's guidance counselors, there's academic counselors that will help you with every step of the way. If not, ask a friend
yeah.
and you
And I
kind of
think
just
what you
talk it
said,
out.
number one, be true to yourself, stick with your gut, because for me, I think I'm content with what I graduated with. But partway through there, I started out going for business. Then I switched my major to music because
Hmm.
I love music. And then uh, I got reprimanded for that by parental figures and other people in my life. And so I was like, okay, yeah, it makes sense. Like I wasn't really going to do anything with the degree in music. And if I
Hmm.
wanted to explore music, I could do that on my own. I didn't need to get a degree in it. Um, so then I switched back, to finance and IT. And um, I definitely, if I had one thing looking back, I wish I had more clarity
Hmm.
about why it is that I was going to university. So that's just one thing I would want to leave our listeners with
Hmm.
today.
Of course. But like, m- like the benefits of college, it's the experience, the education of
Yeah.
learning new things. There's finance that you can learn about stocks or taxes. Like people who want to be accountants, like just
No,
go,
you can't.
just huh?
You don't learn about stocks or taxes, or at least in the finance classes I was taking.
Well, yeah, it depends on what. Well, like there's always a class about whatever it is. But
Right.
like I
Yeah.
know
Well,
I
even
know
master's
people.
program.
Yeah, but like I know people who in my at school had you're able to take a class in stocks, or there's a club that the professor that you had in finance 101 that had a
Hmm.
club about taxes, and then
Right.
you, or a club about stocks, and you join that club. So it doesn't
Hmm.
have to be a class, but I know that like there's certain kind of classes that they will help you in the future of whatever you want to be into it.
Yeah. Yeah.
um but it's basically just pick a major that you do enjoy, take your time. There's community college that you could go and get your grades up, and then you go into a better school and get more scholarships or whatever the case may be to save money if the money is a factor. Um, but depends on where you live. And then after that, it's just okay. You pick your college. Okay, do you like it? Yes. Stick with it. Okay, what can you do with this degree? And then you learn and you research and you. It's like, oh, I could do this. Okay, does that interest you? Yes or no? And you kind of play the yes and no game.
Hmm.
Do you want to be a pharmacist? No. Do you want to be a doctor? Yes. Okay. What do I need to become a doctor? Med school. Okay. Do I want to put this many hours of my life into this? Yes or no?
Right.
And
Well, if
then
the end
it
goal is being a doctor, then you have to make that decision.
yes. The education just is a great tool, great po- um haven of education of like just there for you. You know what I mean? Take advantage of it.
Yeah, I mean, you're paying money. You're
Yeah.
investing in yourself
Hmm.
to potentially perform better in your future and earn more. So
Exactly. I pretty
I think
much.
that's a good place to close.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks, guys, for listening this week
Yeah.
about like college education, college experience, what you need to do. If there's something that we didn't hit on, let us know, please. Um, as well as subscribe, comment on Training Brains. Give
Yes.
us a
Please
shout
like,
out.
subscribe, and share.
Yeah,
And please give us feedback. We've been exploring topics, both new and ones that are familiar to us, things that
hmm
we've covered before. But we're always looking for new ideas, and we love doing this. So
exactly.
we hope to hear back from you guys on our episodes going forward.
Yep. Bye, guys.
All right. Bye bye, everybody.
Peace.